Nathan.
I'm Anissa, and I'm going to be discussing the Fleer and Jane article on design and technology for children.
I'm Parvesh, and I'm going to be talking about planning and assessing for children's learning by Flea Hardy.
I'm Melissa, and I'm going to be discussing the Devereux reading about Earth and Space Sciences.
And we're the Random Group.
Yeah.
So the Fleer and Jane article, The Nature of Technology and Technological Knowledge, begins by highlighting the concept of technology and its ubiquitous presence in society with reference to newspaper prints and also politicians and their association of success with technological products. But then it goes on to say, what do we mean when we talk about technology? What constitutes knowledge in technology education? The main themes of the article, it aimed to firstly clarify the meaning of technology. So for most people, technology means high technology, labour-saving technology, high consumption technology. And a survey in 1994 from children showed that this myth that technology is synonymous with progress is further reinforced by the belief that technology is advancement. This led on to one of my favourite notions Flea and Jane presented, which reflected on technological history, and it questioned its accuracy. We all know Edison invented the light bulb in 1879, but it was later patented by Lewis Latimer, who actually developed the practical lamp, and like the filaments and everything that it was a real alternative to gas. It was then noted that Latimer was African American. And so thus many modern day inventions have been attributed to Western culture, which further made me realise that yes, there has been a rather Eurocentric approach to labelling and the recording of technological artefacts. And it's it was quite interesting because yes, we know racism has existed throughout human history, influencing wars, slavery, the formation of nations, and legal codes. And so for me, it was almost like an epiphany, a sudden realisation that racism too can be reflected in aspects of design and technology.
Definitely. Like, they never acknowledged, in Japan in the 1700s, in temples, they had machines that could dispense fortunes. Like, it was an automated thing. They'll never discuss that because it wasn't in Europe. Like,
exactly. Yeah, it's a very Eurocentric approach.
Yeah,
definitely.
For sure.
Yeah, and it led on to, the prominent theme of social context. So artifacts are socially embedded concepts, and isolating them from their social context in technology doesn't really validate the experience, which further applies to the classroom setting, whereby limiting students' exposure to the social realities of technology and the need for it doesn't really satisfy technology and its purpose, its use, its development. It just falls short, and its importance in the 21st century. My favourite concept of that was the emphasis on culture and the importance of it to understanding technology and its use according to that specific culture. So there was an example in an Indian chemical plant, the Bhopal disaster, where there was issues with the safety devices that were compliant with the US, France, and Germany parts, but had not been matched to the task at hand. It just showed the importance of, yes, you can import and export products from even Australia too, but if the technology does not match the culture, then it's probably not really useful or beneficial. There's basically a massive emphasis on not just developing technology, but appropriate technology for its culture, country, and resources, and the ability for a country to sustain it. That technology, yeah. It also went on to get readers thinking about the work behind people working behind the scenes, not just so it's just engineers, mathematicians, and so forth, and the use of biometrics in its development of, say, Velcro. Yeah, it tailored to different perspectives as well, and it further went on to say implementing science and technology in the classroom, and various lesson ideas were in there too. It was overall quite a great perspective on technology, and I really enjoyed actually the article. So I'll just pass it on to Parvesh.
Yeah. So I did the planning and assessing for children's learning. So the central ideas I found from this reading, it discussed explicit ideas for teaching science and organising learning to make links with what children already know about science and their prior science perceptions. Talks about how to plan for 3-week unit, which I thought was really cool. So choosing a topic, researching the topic, and teaching approaches that you can use for your topic. Lesson plans were provided on topics such as air and Harry Potter, which entail discussing natural and processed materials. How would or can you discuss this with students? It spoke about lesson sequencing, so stimulating scientific conversations in the classroom, integrating science across the curriculum, and an example mentioned was relating back to Harry Potter, was the write, apply, perform it, and illustrate it, and a magic view on magic and science that can be something that comes from the arts but can be linked to science, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, catering for diverse needs.
And it
Yeah.
relates to our previous reading, how you're mixing, matching different interests. And yeah, like, so Harry Potter, you were saying, that's definitely motivating and interesting to learn about, but putting that in, say, a science setting, definitely.
Yeah, so like
carries.
transferring children's knowledge from, you know, the outside context into the classroom and integrating other subjects
Yeah, excellent.
with science is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So assessing people achievement, providing students with assessments relatable to their background. A bit was mentioned about Vygotsky's research, so showing if a potential of an individual measured, planning would be more in tune with the individual needs. I really like this because it made me think about how I would assess students and incorporate what I know about them when assessing them, and what ways I can do this, so linking their prior individual and current understanding and knowledge. It also talked about looking for evidence, student knowledge and experiences, and how it expands as their development progresses. So just summarising the overall reading, it discussed framing children's thinking and how planning could be framed to do this. Assessment, so rather than making sure all children reach an endpoint, rather focus on their individual progression, which I thought was pretty cool. So rather than having, you know, did they achieve this in mind, you know, kind of paying attention to what they were learning during the overall unit.
Yeah, definitely.
And just ongoing assessment instead of, you know, making them nervous about a quiz about the topic.
Yeah, because everyone has different backgrounds, so you don't know how much one student knows. Whereas if you assess their progress, then it just shows, you know, their potential and what they can really do.
Yeah, and I think with science, you know, everyone has different perceptions
Yeah.
about it. So, you know, there's really no right or wrong in terms of your perception and what you find.
Yeah, exactly what you find and or what you make of what you learn.
Yeah, exactly.
So, up to Mel.
Yeah. So I read about teaching Earth and space sciences, and in the reading it was defined as the studies of the non-living environment. I found that really interesting because it's a hard concept for children to grasp. They equate non-living as something being dead. So I think maybe a little bit of investigation into that is in order before introducing this topic. So just you know, showing them that the tree is actually considered non-living, but you know, it's alive. It's not dead. You know, it grows and it sustains life. So Deborah defined 7 areas of investigation within Earth and space sciences. The one that stood out to me was the structure of the Earth. I thought this could be linked to mathematics because an interesting fact that stood out in the readings was that the diameter of the equator is greater than the diameter from the North to South Pole. I found that really interesting because I always thought that the Earth was a perfect sphere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
radius
so
radius
yeah.
implies that it's a perfect sphere.
Yeah.
And when you see it, it's like round and there's no.
And it's, we still
Yeah,
treat it
there's
as a
lots of
sphere, even though it's only a third off from being perfect.
Yeah.
But, you know, we still are classified as sphere. So
Yeah. I also found plate tectonics interesting because you could link it to an inquiry about natural disasters. I know that as a kid I had a gruesome interest in natural disasters. I don't know why. And I noticed in my last placement class they were still really interested in natural disasters and had just studied it. Also constructive and destructive forces. I found it really...
Oh, wow, that'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Especially the students would be quite interested in that.
Yeah, because you always think of forces as, you know, just movement, you know,
Yeah.
force pushing a car.
Exactly, yeah.
They,
Which is the last reading, yeah.
yeah.
Motion.
actually discovered that water is the most destructive force.
Oh,
And that
yeah.
weathering and erosion are 2 different things. So I found that really interesting. And my favourite quote from this reading was probably, "No sooner are landforms constructed than forces of destruction begin to wear them away." So
oh, that's so nice.
yeah,
That's
very
really good.
deep.
Makes you think about water being like more deadly and destructive than fire or like tornadoes and everything because it's like its sheer volume and the capacity and its
Yeah.
ability to
It's actually
destruct.
very powerful.
Yeah, in large
Yeah.
masses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Yeah, and erosion, creating erosion and taking down. It's like a silent killer.
Yeah, took down the 12th apostle. Also, weather and the water cycle. We studied this a bit in my last placement class, and we went to Science Works, the planetarium, and we saw a movie called Tilt. And actually, it was a really nice kind of simple way to explain how the position of the Earth is what influences the seasons, and that your shadow might be longer in, I think, summer because the sun's because the sun's closer, something like that. I need to watch
played
it again.
around with those ideas of
So what really stood out to me from this reading was that Earth and space sciences is a huge topic with lots of potential for interdisciplinary connections, and that as a teacher, it's really important to read texts like this so I increase my content knowledge and perhaps learn with the students. It's okay to say, oh, well, I didn't know that, erosion and weathering were different things.
Yeah, I think that's very important that we, make it known to students that we don't know it all.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
I found an interesting resource linked to Earth Sciences. So I downloaded Google Earth for free, which is a program where you can explore the whole world and the sky. So I thought it would be really interesting because, students can look at the terrain of different countries or different areas.
That's really cool.
Yeah, they can explore their own area too.
Freedom to roam and learn at the same time.
Yeah, I think you need to have a play with it before you introduce it to students because it is a little bit tricky, but...
Yeah, at least so you can reflect back yourself and be like, oh yeah, it is actually good, or you're actually learning something from it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess moving on, going on from reflecting back, the program that I thought was actually quite interesting related to the technology, Fleer and Jane article that I was covering, it was the Audacity program. I thought it was quite useful. It's basically, I'm sure you know, I record your readings and whatnot, and you record what you're saying, and then you play it back to yourself so you can hear, your expression, punctuation, grammar, and so forth. And I thought it was really useful because it was very popular in education. The students are using it all the time, and for any subject, it went across all subject areas. Ranging from science to English and everything. It's quite useful in that. The United Nations conferences were discussing this as well as from SourceForge, so it was quite, it's quite popular. And definitely seeing, especially all the students had it, and all the teachers loved it, so it's win-win for everyone.
That's great.
Awesome. So the resource I found was from the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development.
Yeah.
So primary science resources, the name for it is Fuse. So it's got links to various science-related, catered to AusVals, and is age-specific. Each link explores different scientific concepts. For example, natural history. So this covers biodiversity, dinosaurs, insects, plants, birds, and more.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool because it, is what's going on in the primary curriculum at the moment.
Yeah, so it really tailors into AusVals and the Australian standard, which I think is really important because, that's what's guiding our teachings, our recordings, the devices, everything is complementary to that standard that we're all trying to achieve.
Yeah, and it's good to do research to see what links are out there in relation to science and technology and humanity and things like that.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure we all learned quite a lot actually on placement and from the resources that we used and what we were exposed to.
Yeah.
Beautiful, excellent week, guys. I hope you enjoyed that, Nathan, and we'll see you in the next class. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.